Konnichiwa, Tsuki Jinji Yokoso. Welcome to Santuário Lunar. In this video I'm going to talk about the goddess Amaterasu, the main goddess in Japan in Shinto religion. Amaterasu is the main goddess, the main kami in Shinto religion in Japan, the native religion of Japan. And she represents the sun. She is the sun herself. She is the biggest one among 80 million kamis. And she is the daughter of the divine couple Izanami and Izanagi. When they created the world and the lands of Japan, they had many children. And among these children, they have mainly 4 children. Amaterasu, the kami of the sun, or the goddess of the sun. Tsukuyomi, the goddess of the moon. Susanoo, the goddess of the seas and the storms. And Kagutsuchi, the kami, the god of fire. So Amaterasu is the one who brings fertility, joy, happiness, and everything to the world. And it is said that the first emperors of Japan were directly descendants of Amaterasu. And her 3 royal items are kept until today as treasures, national treasures in Japan. Her sword, her magatama, and her mirror. The most famous episode involving Amaterasu also involves Susanoo. Susanoo, as the god of the sea and storms, sometimes he cannot control himself. And it's said that one day he was destroying all the rice plantations and everything else. And at one moment he threw a dead horse in a waving hall where Amaterasu and other women were. And he caused some injuries in Amaterasu and killed one of those women. So Amaterasu got really sad with this, got really depressed. And she did not confront Susanoo directly because she knew that if she made a confrontation, if she started a war, there will be another battle and another battle and another battle and an endless number of battles. So instead of this, she decided to enter a cave and cry there and stay there with her sadness. But by doing so, she left the sun out of people's lives. She hid herself, so she hid the light together. And people got really sad and depressed too. There was no light, no fertility, no joy, no way for the rice to grow, no way for people to be happy. So people and the kami, they started to feel depressed too, and they wanted Amaterasu to come out of the cave. But she didn't want to listen to anyone. She didn't want even to look outside the cave to give a chance to listen to someone. She was really sad inside that place. So then Omoikane, the kami of wisdom, he started a plot to try to convince Amaterasu to come out. And in this plot, he designed a festival which will be held in front of the cave. A lot of dancing, singing, and happiness, so she would be curious about it and she would eventually come out. But then they knew that she wouldn't be curious enough to leave the cave, so there was more to this plot. They hang a mirror in front of the cave, so the moment she could look at outside, she would see herself in the mirror and she would recognize her own beauty, her own light. This way she would eventually agree to leave the cave and bring this light back to everyone else. But who would be able to dance and make a festival in the dark? That's when another goddess, another kami, enters the plot. Uzume, the goddess of dance and happiness. She's the one leading this festival. So they go in front of the cave, they hang the mirror, they make a small stage. Uzume goes up the stage and starts dancing and singing, and everybody gets happy and they clap their hands, they play musical instruments, and Amaterasu starts to get curious, but it's not enough. That's when Uzume says the following verses. Gods, look at the entrance of the cave, the majesty appears. Rejoice, our hearts are happy, look at my breasts and my limbs. So everybody starts laughing when she exposes her breasts. And Amaterasu gets really curious. Who is this goddess? Who is bringing so much joy to these people? So she looks outside the cave and she sees herself. finally understanding her own beauty, her own light, and the need people had of her light and her love and her beauty and everything else. So she decides to leave the cave and bring light back to the world. This tale is found in the Kojiki, the most famous writings about Shinto mythology and the origins of the world. Another important book, also telling the stories of kamis and some different variations and more stories, is Nihon Shoki, the second book. And in this Nihon Shoki, there's another episode involving Amaterasu. In this one, she sends her brother Tsukuyomi down to earth because they are celestial kamis and they are the earth kamis. She sends to Tsukuyomi to deliver a message to Ukemochi, the goddess of rice and food and grains and all. And then Tsukuyomi goes down to earth to deliver her message. When he meets Ukemochi, she prepares a feast. But as she is the goddess, the kami of food, she prepares this feast by vomiting this food. And Tsukuyomi thinks it's very disgusting, and it is. But he doesn't say, oh, it's disgusting. He simply kills Ukemochi with his sword. And this makes Amaterasu sad again. But instead of hiding herself again, she simply decides to be separated from Tsukuyomi. That's why when Amaterasu is up in the sky, we rarely see Tsukuyomi. And when Tsukuyomi rises, we don't really see Amaterasu. When we analyze the story of Amaterasu hiding herself in a cave and everything getting dark, we see a more profound meaning here. Let's think of Japan. Japan suffers, or Japan has all the natural phenomena possible. They have earthquakes, hurricanes, tsunamis, volcanoes. So when everything is ready and everything is working properly, one of these phenomena comes and destroys everything, changes everything. So they get in the dark. They don't know what to do. They get desperate. They get sad. But they don't give up. They simply find joy again and they rebuild everything and they bring light back. So that's the story of Amaterasu, how this story correlates with Japan. A great way to connect with Amaterasu is by using mirrors and looking at yourself during the daylight. By doing so, you can recognize or improve your self-love and understand your beauty, your own glow, and everything else. Try doing this every time you can, and you see how much you are worth it. So this is Amaterasu, the greatest kami of all, the greatest goddess of all, and until today she's venerated in Japan. And the flag of Japan is the sun, is Amaterasu herself. If you like the video, please give your thumbs up, leave a comment below, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Let the goddess guide you, use our oracle, and thank you very much. So if you are here, why don't you stay a little bit more? Here you find a playlist with all the Shinto goddesses I have talked about. Here you find a playlist with all the goddesses in general I have talked about. Here you find a playlist with all the spells and studies. And here you can subscribe the channel for being the first to receive the news. Thank you very much.